Good morning. It's Tuesday, and that means Writers Chat. So here we are. We're so glad you're with us, whether it's morning where you are or later in the day. We're glad you're here. And thank you for that, whether you're here in person or watching the replay at a later time. My name is Johnny Alexander. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Brandy Brow and Melissa Stroh, and assorted other members of the Writers Chat community, because this is a Come Write With Us session where we're going to actually be putting pen to paper or, fingers to keyboards, whatever your preference. So I'm just going to turn it over to Brandy, and she is going to guide us through today's Come Write With Us session.
Hi, everybody. So today we're talking about writing vivid settings. And I kind of like to know, just show of hands or whatever. Did anybody here have troubles writing vivid settings or picturing settings on a page? And this applies to fiction writers as well as nonfiction. Yeah, okay, I see a couple hands. That's good. Um, well, is it good? I don't know. It good in the sense that I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I think one of my bigger troubles with writing descriptions is that sometimes when I'm creating something, I don't always see the bigger picture. And in my mind, I kind of have to step back a little bit and try and see what is around what's happening in my piece of writing and remember to put that in. Oh boy, I just realized my dictation is on. Hold on. Okay. That's much better. I had to turn that off because I had a whole bunch of everything I was saying going on my screen where my notes are, which is what I do not want. So, yeah, it's important to remember to put setting in and descriptions in so that when people are reading, they feel like they are connecting with what the piece is about. If you've read nonfiction, you'll see that you'll read National Geographic or some, interviews. Description is employed in nonfiction. It helps us to connect with the subject that the author is writing about. And of course, setting in fiction is essential so that we know and understand where a character is. Now, setting, according to Rebecca McClanahan, who wrote Word Painting, and a lot of the session is based off of her book and some of the exercises that she's done. She defines setting as a combination of time and place. So whenever we write setting, we want to think about where is this taking place and what does it look like. So if you're writing science fiction, you have to give the sense of the scientific elements of what it is and about a time frame of where this is. Are we in some scientific setting that is pre-Earth? Is it not Earth? Is it way in the future, like Star Trek? Or if you're writing, well, obviously historical fiction, what part of history are you writing about? Um, Romance, all that other stuff. Is it modern day? Is it Regency? Regency is defined by a certain time period in history. So, setting, time and place, very important. I would like to read a couple of excerpts I found in Word Painting. She pulls some great descriptions, and I just want to read a few, one, two, I think it's three, just to give a little bit of variety. The first one comes from a poem by Gail Peck titled Flood. That year, spring came early, even for New Orleans. The buds unpuckering only to be sheathed in ice, then warm again and rain for days, the water crawling up our street. Poetry. Definitely need good, vivid description in poetry. Um, that gives a sense of, spring. Spring is there. Unpuckering the sheath ice. Very distinctive word choices and using fine detail, choosing specific things within a setting to share with the reader. It's always those fine details of a setting that help us to see where it is and that make it vivid. There is a story by Joseph Conrad called The Secret Sharer. On my right hand, there were lines of fishing stakes resembling a mysterious system of half-submerged bamboo fences. To the left, a group of barren islets, suggesting ruins of stone walls, towers, and blockhouses, had its foundation set in a blue sea. And when I turned my head to take a parting glance at the tug which had just left us anchored outside the bar, I saw the straight line of the flat shore joined to the stable sea, edge to edge. Here and there, gleams of a few scattered pieces of silver marked the windings of the river, and on the nearest of them, just within the bar, the tug steaming right into the land became lost to my sight. My eye followed the light cloud of her smoke, now here, now there, above the plain, according to the devious curves of the stream, but always fainter and farther away till I lost it at last behind the miter-shaped hill of the great pagoda. Now, in that piece of description, one thing you notice is the character in that description. Character is set there. He's describing it. It's not just a narrator that is focusing in on surroundings or um, stopping to really just focus in on what's around. Sometimes when we write settings, we have a way of stopping forward motion. And whenever we write, we want to give the sense of movement even in our settings. So, kind of think of if you're watching an animated show, all of the background is stagnant. None of the trees move. The flowers don't move. Just the main characters are moving. And we want to have a setting that's more real life in an action movie that's set outside where the trees are moving, the wind is blowing, we see movement. So we want our settings to come across that way on the page as much as possible. And I'm just going to step away just from my computer long enough to shut my door. I'll be right back. If anybody has a question, I have my ears.
All right. Anyone have a question? Because Brandy has her ears.
I like what she said about the sense of movement, because we try to use all of our senses, right? When we write, no matter what, like what do we see? What do we smell? What do we hear like this? But I hadn't considered movement unless it was something specific, like a storm coming or something, but there should be something there. So but that was a good thing. I wrote that down.
Good, thanks. All right, one last one before we get to a little bit of some exercises I put together. This is from Dodsworth by Sinclair Lewis. It's a little bit on the longer side, but you'll notice that it starts out with what seems like no character and just observing, but then not too far in, he brings the character in and puts him on the page so that the story doesn't become stagnant. The smell of London is a foggy smell, a sooty smell, a coal fire smell. Yet to certain wanderers, it is more exhilarating, more suggestive of greatness and of stirring life than springtime hillsides or the chill sweetness of autumnal nights. And that unmistakable smell, which men long for in rotting perfumes along the Orinoco, in the greasy reek of South Chicago, in the hot odor of dusty earth among locust-buzzing Alberta wheat fields, that luring breath of the dark giant among cities reaches halfway to Southampton to greet the traveler. Sam sniffed at it uneasily, restlessly, while he considered how strange was the British fashion of having railway compartments instead of that undivided car with a nice long aisle along which you could observe ankles, magazines, rotary buttons, clerical collars, and all the details that made traveling interesting. And the strangeness of having framed pictures of scenery behind the seats, of having hand straps, the embroidered silk covering so rough to the fingertips, the leather inside so smooth and cool beside the doors, and the greater strangeness of admitting that these seats were more comfortable than the flinty Pullman chairs of America, and of seeing outside, in the watery February sunshine, not snow-curdled fields, but springtime greenness, pollarded windows and thatched roofs and half-timbered facades, just like in pictures. England. So in that, very, very picturesque and pulling in a lot of details and using contrast between different cultures to really amplify the current setting that he's in. Contrast to show the difference between what he's used to and what he's seeing now. So those are some of the examples. And I would like to do an exercise to begin really easy. We're going to go for 5 minutes. I'd like you to pull out a piece of paper or your a computer screen, whatever you would like to do. And we're going to make a couple lists. Just going to jot down whatever comes to mind real quickly. This is not, an in-depth, have to think deeply thing. So we're going to look at, we're going to make some lists of maybe places you've been in the last 24 hours, places that you habitually find yourself. And I will put these up on the screen so you'll be able to refer to them during the 5 minutes. Places connected to specific events of your past or specific people of your past. List of places where you feel uncomfortable. You could also do where you feel comfortable. Places you've traveled to only in your imagination. So a lot of ranges of things that we can do here. So this video is supposed to have sound after the first 10 seconds. Please let me know in the chat that you hear the sound. And at the end of the 5 minutes on the screen, there will be an alarm. Hopefully it will not shock you out of your chair, just to let us know that the time is done. And it will help if I actually share the screen. And share sound as well. That's what we want. All right. Do you see the screen?
Yes.
All right, great. And all of you disappear way off to the right of my screen. I'm going to pull you all back. Okay. All right, here we go. First 10 seconds are ready. How was that?
What
Nobody
was
fall off their
interesting?
chair from the ding dong?
Definitely get your attention.
It went fast. That was fast, 5 minutes.
Kathy wants to know
Yeah.
what the music is. She said she liked.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't tell you because I used Canva, and to avoid copyright issues, I used an AI music generation thing. So,
Wow.
yes, and I set it to a calming, inviting kind of mode, and it gave me that. So,
How about that? Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Well, that was great, but the alarm was the dead opposite. You whooped the dead,
Well,
I think.
yes, yes. Fair warning, the couple other exercises we have is going to be the same. It's better than some of the big alarm clocks that go, so
I might have to
Okay.
take my AirPods out.
yeah, sorry.
Funny.
Yeah, well, the last 30 seconds, it'll give a countdown to let you know what's coming. So,
There you go.
so did everybody get something down for places?
Mhm.
Good, good. I noticed when I wrote down mine, I immediately went back to childhood first.
Hmm.
I don't know why, I just did. Maybe it's because I don't get out too much these days. I don't know. Good. All right. So, what we're going to do now is a little bit different. Does everybody have access to a piece of paper?
No.
I want to make sure everybody is able to write. Okay. So, what we're going to do is
I'll have to
take
grab one.
okay. Yes, please grab one. And of course, something to write on it with. um, look through everything that you wrote down and figure out which one draws you more than the others right now. I have a couple of things, places that I've actually imagined from stories that I've written, and then I have some other things. For instance, I have something as a child that I dubbed the Elephant Rock, and so I could describe that. Um, I want you to think out of your list, choose something that is a little bit of a bigger space rather than something like my Elephant Rock. The reason is we're going to draw a map of this place. So I want us to be able to kind of map out what this place looks like. If you have a room, then draw the room, put in windows, put in pieces of furniture. You can draw in a special little design for an area of that room that you particularly like. If you have a larger place, like I wrote down Children's Hospital Boston, I've been there a lot, then I could either draw the inside or I could draw the parking garage and the catwalk and the street and the building itself. And since I've done greater walks, I can do other areas where, like the food court is nearby. So just have something that you can map out and include things like the flora and fauna, if that's applicable, entrances and exits, hallways and pathways, and especially featured elements. If there's a garden, a fireplace, a rock bed, maybe a specific corner of the room that you felt more comfortable sitting in because you didn't like the other parts of the room. I mean, just highlight a specific, the specific things about this place, because we're going to use this map in the last exercise. Now, this one I'm going to have go for 8 minutes. That way, anybody that's like, oh, I can't draw, you don't have to stress. You're not having to show this to anybody. This is just to spark your imagination. Remember, if it's a place that you have been, what this place was like, and to give you a little bit of space to think about your moments that you spent in that space and maybe remember some things that you don't think about initially when you're just passing by in your brain when this kind of floats through. So really digging into what does this place look like and putting it down on the map is going to help draw out some of those elements that maybe we don't think about so often anymore. All right, does everybody have something to write with on a piece of paper? Sophia, you have a puzzle look. Do you have something to write with? That works. That works. Can't tell you how many times I've written on toilet paper. Okay. All right. So I'm going to share. Okay. Here we go.
Okay. If you want to make more, if we're at a
Hello, welcome back. How did that exercise go for you?
It was fun. Yeah.
I'm curious, what types of places did you draw?
I drew the farm that I lived on as a kid. So I had to try to remember where there were buildings and barns and the silos. So some of that was very easy to remember. And then the pathway to go back to where we had what we called the big picnic area, where there was a tree house up in a tree where we played a lot, and a little, stream that ran behind our house. I mean, so there's a lot of little details, and I used different colored pens.
Oh, nice. Love that. I
Sort
wish
it
that I
all
had
out.
used I wish that I had used bigger paper. I thought I
Me
was going
too.
to
Yeah.
I thought I had to, I was going to do like the outside of my house growing up, and then I thought I was going to do the inside layout, so I started little, but then as I kept drawing the outside, I'm like, "Oh wait, I forgot about this. I forgot about this. I
Oh,
forgot about this."
I had to do
And
like an inset, like, okay, all of this should be over here, but I had to redraw it down here because I didn't leave enough room on the margin for it. So, but it was
that's
so
not a bad idea.
fun. It was a great thing to go back to that.
Anybody else? What did you guys decide to
I
do
actually
for?
did something similar. I grew up on a farm too, and I realized I ended up not just drawing a map, but describing, because I'm not that great an artist either, describing some of the things. And I realized I need to talk to my brother. I'm the oldest one, but my brother's 2 years younger. The only one that probably remember. I have younger siblings too, and say, "What do you remember about this?" Because some of
Yeah.
that stuff is a little bit hazy, and I wish I could remember better and see what he remembered too.
Nice. I like that. All right. In the interest of time, we're going to we're going to move forward. I want to make sure we have enough time and then a little bit to share afterwards. We will do 15 minutes of writing. So what I want us to do for this last piece is choose one place in your map and put yourself there in your mind and describe the area as you walk around. Use sensory details like sight, smell, sound, touch, even taste, because you're thinking about this thing, maybe things that you taste or smell while you're there in your mind. Use extra senses of time, like the sense, use extra sense of time, like the sense of time, the sense of balance, maybe the sense of orientation you are to something else in your place. Observe large and tiny elements as you write this down, and then move elements around. This is an interesting piece. As you are in your place, think about moving something in your setting, interacting with it, and describe what you imagine will happen as you move this piece in your setting, or what you will observe. Maybe you pick up a rock. What do you see underneath it? And write that on your page. All right, let me find my little video. All right. Here we go. Hello, everybody. All of a sudden, for a minute, I felt like Grover because I used to do that with my daughter all the time. Anyway. Yes, the bells. Yes. The bells are, yes. Sorry, David, about the bells. So, we have a few minutes to share if anybody would like to share, but first I would like to know, how did you like this writing exercise, writing off of a piece of your map that you drew? See a lot of you nodding your heads.
I found it very helpful. I found more description in the old wagon behind the barn is where I went to, and actually melded the description of the wagon with my imagination as a kid, because I'd sit on that wagon and all kinds of adventures. So I kind of pulled those together and it was really fun. So I enjoyed
Ah,
that.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a similar thing. We used to have a big field behind our house that we had to go across the train tracks to get to, and they had this big old barn that was just run down, and yeah, so I get to go there. So that was kind of neat. What else did people do?
Well,
I
mine
wrote
made
about
me cry. So
What?
mine made me cry.
Oh,
Oh, is this a good cry?
No,
I'm
Oh.
sorry.
just
cathartic cry.
maybe, I don't know. And my friend Candy Abbott's been gone almost 2 years, and I wrote about going back in my mind to her condo down in Fenwick Island, Delaware, where we used to write. And so,
Mm,
Good description
thanks, PM.
touches emotions.
Mhm.
yeah, the thing that stuck out to me, sometimes we forget about sounds, and I used to remember the big old bullfrog out the window.
Mm.
He was there. I don't know if it was the same one or his children and grandchildren or whatever, but he was out there every time I was there when it wasn't winter, And that's when I put in there that I imagine I was back there and that everything was the same. If you walk in there and it was always peaceful, the Holy Spirit was there, and everything was the same, and it smelled the same, felt the same and all, and even the bullfrog was still serenading me. So, but that I was alone that this time.
It's very touching.
She's been on my mind, so that's what came up for me.
Melissa started to say something too, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, I was just writing about my grandparents' house in Story, Wyoming. And I was reminded of how many things I didn't know how to accurately describe. Well, at the same time, all the things that did pop to mind. And so it made me want to be able to describe it even more, to try to recall as much to memory as I could, because so many fond memories of that place. It is one of those peaceful places, and just so many happy childhood memories from there. So, yeah.
Would anybody like to share what they actually wrote?
Mm-mm. It is a draft for sure.
Well, yes. I mean, I don't expect anybody to write down stellar prose the first time. And if you do,
Oh,
it's
come on.
probably just a stroke of genius. So, I mean,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
this
right.
is why we edit, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I'll
I'll
try
go
to
for
get
it.
through mine if y'all want.
Okay, yeah.
If you would like.
I imagine I'm sitting in my spot at the dining room table where I should be writing. I've made my favorite raspberry coconut tea, and I have pecan nut thins. It's early morning. The sun is just starting to rise. I feel a longing for my friend. She's been gone 2 years. Her condo still has the same sense of total peace, like it doesn't know its owner is gone. It looks the same, smells the same, sounds the same. That big old bullfrog is still serenading me. But I am alone, and I so much want Candy to be sitting next to me like she did so many times. Both of us working on a story, laughing, crying, and sharing. Once again, I ask God why she had to go when she did. Once again, I thank him for her life. Once again, I hear her voice greeting me. Hello, darling. I weep. Then I smile. And then I start to write. And I don't feel alone anymore.
Oh,
Oh,
that's lovely, Pam. And it does almost sound like a completed piece too. I mean,
it
yeah,
does.
it really does.
Yeah, I go back to that condo in my mind a lot. Because we did a lot there. Just not family vacations. She was so generous, but we did a lot of writing there, she and I.
Yep. Yep.
I
Thank you for
probably will
sharing
never
that
go
very
there again, you
touching
know?
piece.
I don't even know if her family still owns it at this point.
Well, thank you, Pam. Joanne, are you raising your hand to share?
Yes.
Please.
Oh, I hope I can get it. My computer, my thing just went off. Anyway, I wrote about my happy place, and I stayed in a cabin on Seneca Lake in New York with friends,
Mm-hmm.
and and early in the morning, I went to I walked to the lake, and the morning mists were hanging over, and it made me cold and damp,
Mm.
and I looked around. There was a mother duck, and she had little babies, and she was squawking and fussing at them because they were just running all around like she didn't have her ducks in a row. Uh, uh, she finally went in the water, and they all glided after her, and and all was right with the world. Right at that moment, everything was right with the world, and I go back to my happy place in my imagination anytime I feel like it, even though I'm far away. And
That's
that's my
great.
story.
That's great. I love that. I think we have time to share one more. Would anybody like to share?
I would share. I'm just going to read you the first and last because I got a lot written and I'm not going to read you
Okay.
all of it, but you can get the flavor of it from,
Okay.
I think, the first and last. This old wagon appeared weary, parked and abandoned behind an equally weary set of outbuildings. The wagon's metal rims had long abandoned their purpose and instead sat askew at angles from the wooden wheels. Spokes were missing and some of the wheels broken, leaving the wagon leaning to one side. And then I imagined a couple of paragraphs later, long, supple leather reins flowing to my hands from big prancing horses drawing the wagon. The wagon had likely been a utilitarian servant, but in my child's mind, it was a doorway to a great adventure, chasing down bandits. And then I finished up, my wagon leaped with the challenge. Oh, I had to break loose the brake. Let me read you part of that. Because the metal brake was rigid, locked in place, but I wasn't deterred by rust. I grabbed the pitted metal handle and yanked back. First, nothing moved. The scent of rust can be the scent of dying dreams, but my story wouldn't be complete without a working brake. So I stood, put both hands and a foot into the project, and the brake clunked as it moved back. A metallic shriek emerged from underneath the wagon, so I jumped off to investigate. So I go into looking underneath, all that stuff. So the final paragraph, I get back on. My wagon leaps with the challenge, now gleaming with polished wood. The smell of horses' sweat soaked my brain, and I leaned forward to encourage them. So on to my adventure.
Ah, I love that. You use so much sensory detail in many different senses. It really gives the sense of being there and enjoying what you were enjoying. I love how you use metaphor with rust. I incorporated rust in mine as well, but I went more with the actual, like the scent and the grittiness of it. And the metaphor that you came up with, broken or dying dreams was just great. I love that. That
Oh,
really
thank you.
metaphor with description can be a wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful pairing. So that's a really great example, and I think that's an excellent, excellent one to end on this particular session. So
Thank you.
thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad that everybody seems to enjoy our session today. And I hope that anybody that is watching the replay will have done these exercises. And if you didn't, I encourage you to do it, because drawing a map and then writing about a specific piece of that part and then interacting with it really stimulates the imagination, helps you remember things that maybe you didn't remember before, but then it also creates something new at the same time, as you can see with Kathy's example that she gave. I think it's just absolutely fantastic. Melissa, do you happen to know what we have on tap for next week?
I was going to say Johnny might be more equipped to
No.
Or
introduce that
Johnny.
one, but I will. We're going to have, forgive me if I'm saying her name wrong, Kate Ann Turian. Am I saying that right?
I think so. Yeah.
She is going to come and speak to us about was it creative nonfiction? I'm sorry, I
Grammar.
was not prepared.
I think it's grammar.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay,
I
never
believe
mind.
it
That's
is
the
grammar.
Grammar.
Yes.
grammar.
Yes.
Okay.
She had
And
asked. Yep.
if I remember right, there will be a place in the Writers Chat Facebook group where you can ask questions, because you really wanted to make it focused on what you're concerned about. And, grammar is one of those things that it's not fun to talk about. We just don't. And yet it is vital to our writing. And so I think Kate will do a great job of
Yeah.
I found it. I was just to say, I found it. She's going to be addressing grammar myths too, along with
Yes.
self-editing.
Nice.
So that'll
nice.
be fun, because I know there's a lot of those that'll slip us up every now and again. So yeah, to go into
Yep.
detail and have some interactive help with that, that'll be great.
That'd be great. Yeah.
And
Grammar
the
is one of those
rules
things that a lot of
change.
writers kind of know intuitively, but they don't necessarily understand the whys of why they know what they know. So it's always great to get
And
into
rules
that.
change, and they're
They
not,
do.
not all publishers have the same guidelines. Like some publishers want, like, deity pronouns, they want them capitalized, others do not, and so you sometimes you just have to do what you do, and then a publisher may change it all up anyway, so. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Kate being here. Melissa and Kathy and I all met her at the well, I don't know if Kathy actually met her, but Kathy and I were all at the novel marketing conference. So I'll put it that way. We were all there at the same time in January. So all right. Anything else before we go to the after party?
I don't think so. And if anybody wants to share their exercises in the after party,
I can do
that's
that.
great too.
That's
Yep.
great. All right, so we'll see you all next week. Thanks for being here, whether you're here or whether you've watched the replay. If you are watching the replay, we do invite you to join our Writers Chat Facebook group, and also check out the Writers Chat Facebook page. And for all of our videos, you can find our playlist on the Serious Writer YouTube channel. See y'all next week. Bye-bye, everybody.